We've definitely got a substantial amount of transmission to come. Now, of course, what you have to factor in then is to what extent people anticipate that. So they anticipate, for instance, that their mortgage payments are going to rise. I mean, that's a question in and of itself. And again, one of the questions on the recency bias is that, for instance, the mortgage market has changed fundamentally. So we wouldn't learn a lot by going a long way back in time on that point. Well, I think Swati makes a very interesting point. The pass-through from producer prices to consumer prices on goods price inflation has been slower. But Swati's right, that it's very dramatic on producer prices. We've got negative producer price inflation now, if I remember rightly, in this country. So the question for us is, how long is that pass-through going to take? And of course it comes back to earlier questions that the chair and others were asking about. If we have this longer delay, how much is that going to cause more persistent inflation, and that affect people's expectations as well. And we have to consider that every time. I would lean somewhat more against that than Swati would, but we're on the same page in terms of what are the issues here that we're trying to come to terms with.
So you do accept that there is a risk of over-tightening here?
Well, what I would say is it appears that there is a longer transmission, that the lags are longer, and this is this asymmetry point that John was referring to earlier, and we have to factor that in our policy decision. Now, if you look at the inflation profile in the monetary policy report, it comes back to target. On the modal case, it may go a bit below target, and we're having to judge the risk around that all the time.
I realise that, but I'm asking you if there is a risk, and it sounds to me as though you're accepting there is a risk of over-tightening.
Well, there's a distribution of possible outcomes around any central path. The central path returns us to target.